everybody. Welcome to the next video in this series going over every single Pokemon in the game. Today's discussion is going to really focus on the Arbok. Now, Arbok is kind of a sad Pokemon in my opinion, because it doesn't really have much of a role. I mean, it's got the dozing type, as most poison types do. You'll see it on dozing. And that's the case for its entire evolutionary line. It's got the berry specialty. Now, it is unique in that it is the only berry specialist for the Chesto berry, the poison type, but it's just got a lot of things working against it, and today I'm going to go over what those things are. Now, firstly, its main skill, Charge Energy S. If you watched my video on the Raticate, you'll know that I'm not really the biggest fan of the Charge Energy S main skill on the berry specialists. I think that typically speaking, you run your berry specialists all day long, all night long, meaning that they're getting that energy back from just sleeping with you. On top of that, it's a little bit excessive, because with an energy for every one Pokemon, you don't really have to collect more energy. The energy has a hard cap at 150%, so if you have good enough energy for every one Pokemon, this main skill isn't that useful, especially on the berry specialists that are spending the entire day in your team. Now, I like this main skill on the ingredient specialists so that it gives you a bit more flexibility to swap them in and out of your team as necessary, but on a berry specialist, it's just kind of excessive. So it basically doesn't have a main skill. It has a skill trigger rate of 5.7%, but it may as well not even have any skill, because you end up this guy just sits at 150% energy all day long and barely gets any boost from it at all. So, as for its ingredient rate, it's got a 26.4% ingredient rate, which is pretty high for a berry specialist, and you don't really want ingredient rate on a berry specialist, just because that means that those ingredients are eating into what berries you should be producing, and you especially don't want it on a berry specialist that has a rather high value berry like the Arbok. Now, if you go check out the berries, their values, you can see that the Chesto berry has a value of 65 at level 30. If we go to base, it's got a value of 32, which is actually higher than I thought it was. That is the third highest in the game, tied with the Rost berry, the ice. So, it's one of the more valuable berries in the game. So every time that an ingredient eats that up, that's just even more hurt done to the Arbok. So you really don't want this being that high. That means that roughly 1 in every 4 procs it gets isn't going to be the berries you want. It's instead going to be some random ingredients. And what are those ingredients? Well, sausage. The typical troll ingredient that gets added to ingredient lists when the devs want there to be something as a bad option. Sausage is really only good on the Charizard and nothing else. Maybe Tyranitar in the right case, as I discussed in my daily videos, or my daily journal series today. You can go watch that if you want. It's got sausage and eggs, which doesn't really synergize well with each other. There aren't that many meals, if any, that take sausage and eggs. There's some that takes ginger or herbs and sausage, but you probably aren't getting an Arbok to level 60. Because it's just got so much working against it. So, it's got an inventory of 14, which is a decent sized inventory, but berry specialists don't really care about their inventory. So, and the values here, sausage is one of the lower value ingredients. It's got a value of 103. Eggs are pretty high value. If you get eggs at level 30, then that's a little bit of a boost compared to the sausage, because they've got a value of 115 versus 103. I believe it's apple at 90, milk 98, soybean 100. There's something at 101, and 103 is the sausage, I believe, next. I don't think there's anything for 102. So, it's one of the bottom 5 ingredients. So, it's especially harmed by this shockingly high ingredient rate. Now, and I don't recommend the Arbok for anything. It's just kind of sad. If I go in here and I make it so that we're looking at just the final evolutions of Pokemon, and we look at let's sort them by total strength. If we take a look at their total strength per day, instead of their ingredient count, because that doesn't really matter. You'll see that the Arbok... Oh, wait, I don't have it sorted by berry Pokemon. Because we want to be looking at berry specialists. The Arbok is one of the bottom 2, right alongside the Marowak and the Raticate. Now, something very interesting you'll notice, a lot of these are Charge Energy S Pokemon. I think that goes into the weakness of the skill. I have it set up so that it takes into account my Gardevoir. Now, my Gardevoir is kind of a mid Gardevoir. If you watch my main series, you'll know that my Gardevoir is actually not the best. You can even see the sub-skills here listed. I invested in it primarily because it's shiny. I wouldn't recommend investing in a Gardevoir like mine if it's not shiny, but I like the fact that it's shiny, and it was kind of sort of usable, so I've pigeonholed and forced it to be good, despite not being. So you can see that the Charge Energy S Pokemon are like some of the lowest of the berry specialists, aside from Altaria. But that's just because, like I said, they basically don't have a skill at all. So the other specialists benefit from the skill, whereas they don't. Anyway, the Arbok, you can see, is the second from the bottom. And here's where I get into the concept of specialists and their favorite berry. Now, you'd say, oh, what if you have poison favored berry? That's a reason to use the Arbok. Sure, if you have poison favored berry, it is the best. I mean, hands down. The problem is, you're never going to have that Chesto berry by itself. There's always going to be 3 favored berries. And even if we have the worst possible combination of berries, which if we just go off of this rough analysis, you could futz around in these settings and get different results, but this is always a good rough estimate of how they rank. Even if you are to do the 3 weakest berries to give Arbok the best odds, you can see that the Raticate still outranks it. So, Chesto Berry, Person Berry, and Figgy Berry. The Arbok is still second to Raticate. So there is never a circumstance where Arbok is going to be your best berry specialist. Now, something to keep in mind here is that if you happen to catch a good one, if you happen to catch one with absolutely cracked stats, a bad Pokemon's still going to be good with the right sub-skills. That's because of how much RNG there is in the game. A bad Pokemon can be a good option. There might be better options, but the odds of you catching a better option is pretty slim. A Berry Fighting S help bonus for Arbok is going to be better than Eradicate with 3 tiers of inventory up. In fact, that Arbok is probably going to be better than a Typhlosion with 3 tiers of inventory up. So, it just depends on what you catch. However, would I recommend ever hunting the Arbok to begin with? No. It's just kind of sad and outclassed and pretty much by any of these other berry specialists. Granted, you're probably not going to catch one of every single berry specialist outside of here, like Raticate, like if you go through and you catch all of these, cool. But you're probably never going to see a week that you'd want to use the Arbok over anything else. That's basically all there is to be said about the Arbok, and I hope you've enjoyed the discussion about why it's kind of falls short. It's available at Cyan and Top if you're looking to hunt it. I wouldn't ever recommend hunting it though. It's mostly a troll spawn. The Ekans is also at Lapis, even though the Arbok is not. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you.